last episode, we talked about the happy chemicals, dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin, and the neural pathways that control them. This time we'll look a lot closer at what turns them on in the state of nature, and I think you'll see some really familiar aspects of everyday life. Let's start with dopamine. To understand dopamine, imagine you're a hungry lion. You haven't eaten in days. You're looking around for prey. If you ran after everything you saw, you'd starve to death before you got a meal. So you make really careful decisions about what you run after. So you're looking around for something that's close enough and vulnerable enough for you to catch. When you see something that fits the pattern that your brain recognizes, dopamine, that turns on your dopamine and it releases the energy you need for the hunt. Here's another example. Imagine you're an elephant and you haven't drank for days and you're in the middle of a drought and you're really thirsty. So you're on a long march to look for water. You're not sure where to find water. You look around, you see some signs that are familiar from a trek to a water hole long ago. Dopamine! It turns on your dopamine and that tells you, I'm going to meet my needs. I'm going to get a reward. And it releases the energy that keeps the elephant on the path to water, and it feels good. Now, imagine you're a monkey. You're looking around for different opportunities to eat, but monkeys are social creatures and they're also looking around at their social environment for different ways to meet their needs. Now, let's just imagine a monkey sees a coconut at the top of the tree, looks up, and it makes a careful decision before it starts to climb. It thinks about, can I make it? What's the best way to get up there? By the time I get there, will someone else be there and already have taken it? When it sees a coconut it thinks it can get, dopamine. That's the great feeling that tells his brain, go for it, you can get it, you can do it. You're about to meet your needs and get a reward. So dopamine gives you that feeling of getting a reward before you get it, and that gives you the motivation to take the next step when you see that you're on your way to meeting a need. Now, let's talk about endorphin. You've probably heard a lot about endorphin in the context of runner's high, and it's frustrating to think about how we're not meant to be enjoying endorphin all the time. In fact, the word endorphin means endogenous morphine. Endorphin is chemically like morphine, which means also heroin, Oxycontin, in the way that dopamine is like cocaine. Now, it's easy to see that we're not meant to be stimulating these chemicals all the time. Our brain is not meant to be releasing these all the time because endorphin masks pain. When your endorphin is flowing, you can run from a predator even though you're injured, and that promotes survival. So imagine you're a caveman. You broke your leg and you need to get out of a hole so that you can get help. But you don't want to run on a broken leg. Endorphin masks pain for about 15 minutes, and that makes the caveman able to climb out of the hole and get to a place where he can call for help, and after 15 minutes, he feels the pain. Pain is important information. It tells you not to run on a broken leg, not to touch a hot stove. It tells you to protect yourself when you're doing something that might be threatening, but endorphin masks the pain just long enough for you to meet your survival needs. Endorphin evolved for emergencies, just like dopamine evolved only for you to take steps toward rewards rather than sit on the couch and float all the time or to run after everything. Let's talk about oxytocin. We mammals release a lot of oxytocin at birth, and that enables a baby to attach to its mother. We also release a lot of oxytocin in the mother at birth, which causes the mother to attach to her baby. Oxytocin causes the feeling of trust and safety when you're in the presence of another. But we mammals were not intended to trust everybody. In fact, there are plenty of chimpanzees in the wild who are missing a finger or toe because they let the wrong ape get too close. We are meant to only let individuals close enough to touch us when our oxytocin is flowing, and we make careful decisions based on the circuits that we built from past experience. So anything that triggered your oxytocin before builds a pathway that tells you it's safe to let someone close enough to touch you. Now let's talk about serotonin. This is a little complicated. In the state of nature, monkeys are living close to other monkeys who will steal their food. It's not nice to think about, and we like to think about monkeys sharing food, but a lot of the time animals are competing for food and for mating opportunity. So every monkey is always making a decision. Is it worth going after that piece of food and possibly getting bitten in a conflict? So a monkey checks out the scene and decides, am I stronger than you? Are you stronger than me? If I'm stronger than you, I'm going to go for that banana. My serotonin is released when I decide that I can assert myself and meet my needs. And it feels good. And so we're always looking for ways to release that serotonin feeling. Now, of course, if we went around trying to one-up everybody all the time and steal their bananas, we'd get into trouble. Nobody would want to be near us, and then we wouldn't stimulate our oxytocin. Or we might get into conflict with the wrong monkey and get bitten, which would stimulate our cortisol. And we would never get the banana, so we wouldn't stimulate our dopamine. So you can tell it's not easy being a mammal. We're always looking for ways to stimulate one happy chemical without losing other happy chemicals and without getting cortisol. So how does this apply to you, a modern human? You need healthy ways to trigger your happy chemicals because your mammal brain will keep seeking them. Here are some examples. To stimulate dopamine, set a small goal and reach it. Then do it again and again. When you see that you're reaching a goal, the great feeling of dopamine will be released, and the repetition will wire you to expect to reach your goals. This doesn't work if you pick some huge goal that you won't reach for years, and it doesn't work if you pick a goal so small that it doesn't meet a need. So focus on something you can do and do it. For example, when I sit down at my desk, I often feel overwhelmed because so many things are competing for my attention. So I turn that bad feeling into a nice dopamine feeling by picking 3 priority tasks that I can do right away. I screen out everything else and focus until I get it done, and then I celebrate before I go on to something else. I don't mean I celebrate with pizza. I celebrate with the nice feeling that it's safe to rest because I can meet my needs. So focus on something you can do and take steps toward it. Endorphin is hard to stimulate in healthy ways. Exercise stimulates it, but only if you exercise to the point of pain. That's not safe because your body adjusts, so it takes more and more pain to get the endorphin. We're better off saving endorphin for real emergencies. Fortunately, laughing and crying stimulate a bit. You do not want a crying habit because that floods you with cortisol. Laughing is great, but only a real belly laugh stimulates endorphin. So instead of wasting time on cynical chuckles, find something that cracks you up and make room for it in your life. Oxytocin flows when you're with people you trust. So why is this so hard? Because betrayed trust triggers cortisol, and that wires you to expect pain. Conflict is part of life in a mammalian herd or tribe because each mammal brain is focused on its own survival. Our ancestors stuck with the group anyway because a predator would get them if they left. Today, if people annoy you, you can just get out of town on the next bus and a predator won't get you. So it's tempting to think you'll go to the next town and find ideal trust there. And if not, the next town. But unfortunately, oxytocin circuits take time to build. Trust builds slowly. So we often settle for the fast, easy mammalian kind of trust, which is based on a common enemy. We feel good when we belong to a group, even if it's just an in-group defined by an out-group. If you want more, Remember that trust builds slowly, so every day take small trust-building steps and your brain will reward you with oxytocin. Serotonin drives us to seek social importance in addition to just acceptance. Your mammal brain is always comparing you to others, and when you come out on top, it gives you a little boost of serotonin. You easily see this in others, even though we hate to see it in ourselves. If you hate your mammalian urge for status, you will end up hating everyone and you. So we're better off making peace with our inner mammal. Many people do this by feeling morally superior to others. That gives them a little boost for a minute, but soon the serotonin is metabolized and your brain is back to comparing you again. Your inner mammal thinks you'd be happy forever if only you were the top monkey. If you let your inner monkey believe you're being put down by others, you will ruin your life with cortisol. You're better off managing your mammalian urge for the one-up position the way you manage your mammalian urge for pizza or mating opportunity. When I see a pizza, my mammal brain wants it as if my survival depends on it. But I've learned that I actually can survive without it. And so I learned to accept that feeling of urgency without acting on it. When you see a fabulous mating opportunity or maybe a cute baby, you may want it as if your life depends on it. But when you get disappointed, you learn that disappointment does not actually kill you. So your mammal brain learns to live with that feeling of urgency without acting on it. When you understand your mammal brain, you accept your ups and downs instead of rushing toward ups that hurt you in the long run. When you accept your mammal brain, you stop cursing the world for failing to make you happy and start taking steps that trigger your happy chemicals in new ways. Our next episode will tell you how to create new patterns in your brain. I think you'll like it.